Hey guys, I'm Heintje, and this time no intro of me standing in front of my bike telling you what the video is about. Not because I got camera shy, or because I got called out reading the script. No, it's because there's so much I want to show you. So while I read the introduction of this video, you'll get to watch one of the other runs of the vacation. It was the last run of the last day, and it was epic. Since I addressed the topic now, I might as well go a bit deeper into it, my voiceovers. I know for some of you this is the hardest part of watching my videos. For me it's also the hardest part of making the videos. Unfortunately, I can't just point the camera at my face and talk about whatever I want to say. That way I would keep repeating myself and the story will jump so fast all over the place that no one can keep up with it. I don't want the kind of channel where I just write cool trails and dump the VODs. Those kind of videos are only worth a watch if you're riding or gonna ride the trail. No, I want to tell the stories of my mountain bike adventures. Therefore, the only way that works for me is to write a script first and then record a voiceover. I hoped after doing this for years now, it would have become easier, but I guess it never will. With my dyslexia, it's hard for me to read, even my own words, so it will take me multiple takes to record just a few sentences. This will make the voiceover more fluent in the end, but I'll lose some of the enthusiasm in the process, something I don't express that much of to begin with. To give you an indication, it always takes me over half an hour to record a voiceover for a 10-minute video. Now I could use some AI text to voice for this, but honestly, I don't like watching that kind of content myself. It just feels too cheap to me. While I'm at it now, let me address another thing I get a lot of comments about. Why I make my videos in English. I know at least 80 to 90% of you speak Dutch, so why make it any harder for myself? Sure, I don't want to limit my potential audience. For the Dutch viewers, the closer to home the trails I'm covering are, the better the video performs. However, I'd like to ride all over Europe and make videos about those adventures. Unfortunately, it's very hard to get into other demographics with the way the YouTube algorithm works. As long as I keep making videos in English, at least the possibility is there. But the main reason is, just as with the other examples I talked about, it's what I prefer to watch myself. I barely watch any Dutch content, except for a few mountain bike channels of people that I know personally. But enough about my video making process, at least for now. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and I might address them in a future video. For now, let's focus on the riding. Like I said, the trail you've been watching during my rambling was the last run of the whole week. Even though I said in my previous video that I don't like pain and therefore always try to stay well within my skill level, I have to admit, on this run I kinda broke my own rule. One thing I love to do while snowboarding is enter a section with slightly too much speed and then try to survive. This way I have no time to think and just have to act. When it works out, it's a great way to get better, and if I fail, well, snow is soft. Rocks and trees are not, so on a mountain bike I prefer to start slow and then go a bit faster every sequent run. Well, not this time. Maybe it was overconfidence or a bit of YOLO. Anyway, everything worked out and it felt amazing. I felt like me and my hardtail could handle anything by now. Although this turned out not to be the case. Literally 10 seconds before the end of the trail, I flattened my back tire. A bit of a bummer, but honestly, I was pretty surprised that was the first flat of the week for me. Okay. I'm known as a rough rider, usually bulldozing straight to everything. But somehow I can manage to ride for a week around Finale Ligure with any technical issues. Maybe I'm more subtle than I think. Anyway, time to finally get to the main subject of the video. After I roll the intro, of course. It would be unfair to my supporters to not roll the intro. Let me start by setting the stage. This was the third year in a row we went to Finale Ligure. You might have seen this video I made 2 years ago. As you can see in that video, we rode nothing but amazing trails. However, one trail we didn't ride, Dowhhill Man. Probably one of the most iconic trails of the region. When it comes to enduro trails, maybe even the most iconic trail ever. It wasn't that we didn't want to ride Dowhhill Man that week, only when we asked a guide about it, the answer was that the trail was a bit remote, so in order to get to it, we would have to ride quite a bit in the van, all for just 1 or 2 trails. So in order to just ride as much as possible, we skipped Dowhhill Man. The second year was the same story. We did check if it was possible to ride the trail on a rest day. Unfortunately, it was a rainy day, so again we skipped Dowhhill Man. Now for the third year the arguments were the same, however this time we didn't care and we felt we just had to finally ride the trail. See for ourselves if it's worth spending some time in the van for or not. We even managed to combine it with some easy trails close by to warm up on. I'm not gonna lie, these trails were nothing special, other than a warm up opportunity. Then it was finally time to hit the famous trail. The first bit is pretty flat and not eventful. Thankfully we weren't in the EWS race, so we didn't have to sprint this part.
Ja, dit is Malaga.
It kinda reminded me of the trails in Malaga, very loose combined with rocks. Yeah, I know I promised a Malaga video a long time ago. Now I'm back in the game, it's on the planning for soon. Feel free to hit that subscribe button if you want to get a notice as soon as the video drops.
Pedaling, jump.
Now we got to the spot where the real fun begins. It all starts with a jump. You can ride it as a drop, ideally you want to jump straight into the corner. Now we knew what was coming, we walked back up and gave the jump one more go. I feel I committed quite a bit here. However, I was still a bike length short of the ideal landing spot. If I would have another go, I think I could get there. Only thing I'm not sure about is the speed I hit the corner with afterwards. The next section is all about choosing. There are so many parts where you can pick the steeper direct line or the easier ride around.
Heb je ook gewoon rechtdoor. Hier ook.
Since we were new to this trail, we followed our guide, assuming he knows the best lines. Turned out he played it safe. One of the things that makes this trail unique and tricky is the surface. It's loose, very loose, but not with sand like most trails around Finale. No, it's gravel. This makes it hard to predict the grip levels, although they're not too bad. As long as you keep your speed under control, it's all very doable so far. But man, I don't want to be racing here. This one will be so unforgiving at race pace. Next up is another characteristic of downhill men, wide open rock formations. At first this is very overwhelming, so many line options. Again, if you stay calm, it's not that hard.
Yeah.
My tip is to try to ride straight down where possible. I once had a snowboard teacher call this the tennis ball trick. Imagine you place down a tennis ball, how will it roll? That's the line you want to follow. Personally, I find it more fun to imagine a bowling ball. Anyway, we felt the section was worth doing again. For this day, I've given my old GoPro to my friend. But let's say he's a better biker than a filmer. He managed to film all the stops and hikes back up, but he didn't film any of his riding. Upside of this, now I have some footage that shows the terrain in another perspective.
Hier is zo meteen wel even omhoog. Lekker mooi.
After the first time was overwhelming, the second time was, well, underwhelming. Once you know what to expect and how to handle it, it's actually pretty easy. Of course, that is until you try to go as fast as possible.
Nice man.
Is dit nou alles?
Het stelt niet veel voor, hè?
Nee.
Don't get me wrong, the view alone makes this trail very special, although that's something I don't register while I'm riding. More on that later. For now, let's continue. The rest of the trail is just more of the same. Huge rock formations combined with loose gravel. It's hard work to get the bike safely down the trail, and you have to stay focused all the time. But there's no doubt about it. This is the coolest trail I've ever ridden. The fact that you have so many options is unique. On most trails, all the options you have is to go over or around a rock. And in most cases, both options are fine. Here you really have to look and think about your lines. A different style of riding. Also, the difficulty is perfect. It's a real challenge. But if you slow down a bit, very manageable. The trail is rough. I'm sure you can see that even with the GoPro effect. But then it's not that chunky that it loses all the flow. There's still enough flow to make it a fun riding experience. The real challenge comes from your speed. This is one of those trails that get exponentially harder when you try to go a tiny bit faster. On the other hand, taking the time to figure out what lines works best can make a huge difference. I now understand why this is the EWS classic it is. Let me pause the run for a moment. Here the trail merges with Dowhhill Woman, that comes from the right. While we were in the area, we rode that trail as well, so let's go back to the top and see what Dowhhill Woman has to offer. This one starts with a mellow section as well. At this point, I've forgotten the mellow section of Downhill Men. All I could remember was the amazing rock sections we just rode, so this part felt a bit boring. Apparently, our guide wasn't very familiar with this trail, which led to some brake tests. He was looking for the start of the fun part somewhere on the left. Once he found it, the fun could start. This trail has more or less the same characteristics as Downhill Men. Loose gravel alternating with rocky sections. Only difference is, this is a single trail, removing a lot of choice, making it feel much easier. It felt also a lot shorter. Whether this was because our speed was higher, first of all, by now we were used to the circumstances, and second, turns out you can go a lot faster and you don't have to scan half a mountain for lines. It could also be the downhill man felt longer because we stopped more and even walked back up certain sections. One section I want to highlight, however, is this part. First I rolled a drop that was on the edge of what's rollable.
Die was sketch.
You know that after your back wheel goes over the edge, it doesn't go back to the ground and you do an unintended endo. Sketchy. Remember how I said I don't pay attention to the view while riding? Well, I'm fully focused on the trail.
Die was sketch.
Now looking at the footage, I didn't even notice the cliff here on the right. Back to the last part of downhill woman before it merges with downhill man. I think this is the perfect example how an 8 out of 10 trail can be disappointing after you've just ridden a 10 out of 10. The reason I paused the run earlier is that I now can show the difference between my first and second time riding the last bit. The first time I checked out the high line a bit careful. I didn't want to slide out to the low line on the right, but once I knew that line worked, I could go a bit faster the second time around. Also, the first time we had one more stop here. Fun fact, this is where the race run finishes. The trail straight on leads to an amazing viewpoint, by the way. The second time I could carry a bit more speed into what might be the gnarliest section of the whole line. Looking back at it, I don't even understand how I could ride this on a hardtail without wrecking my wheels, or at least getting a puncture. Anyway, that was downhill man and woman. The next day Timon figured out how to GoPro, so we got some footage of me riding. I think it might be fun to see my riding from another perspective for once. So while I show that, let me conclude the video. After 3 years we finally got to ride downhill man, and man, did it live up to the hype. Don't get me wrong, it's not that we rode boring trails the other times, it's just that this trail has so much that makes it special.
Stefan! Holy shit! Die lijn!
The loose gravel surface was a bit scary in the beginning. Once you get used to it, it's one of those things that makes this trail so unique. Otherwise the rocks would have all the grip you need and everything would be so much easier. Now you have to stay 100% focused. That, in combination with the wide sections that require a different way of reading the trail, again something you need to get used to. I wish more trails would have this. Unfortunately this cannot work out on dirt trails, only on rocks. Add to that the amazing setting, the village in the sea as a backdrop, and of course let's not forget the trail itself. Gnarly but doable, technical challenging but still with flow. After these runs I would have loved nothing more than to do one more run, a full top to bottom run. Although I think that might be really rough on the body, I truly believe this trail gets even better a second time around. However, on a third run it might get sketchy. Overconfidence can be a real killer here. As soon as you start to go a bit faster, everything gets so much harder, and a small mistake can get punished very fast. Have you ridden this trail? I'm curious what you think about it. Please let me know in the comments. If you haven't ridden it, and you're going to Finale Ligure, I can't recommend this one enough. It's simply unique. If you have the chance to ride it, go for it. One small side note, the trail is rated black for a reason. If you're not comfortable with that level of trails, the views won't make up for all the fears you'll be having. With that, I've come to the end of the video. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you back for my next video. After the most iconic enduro trail, the next video will be about the most iconic downhill trail, Coupe du Monde in Champery. Till next time, and for now, Houdoe. Oh, did I say my riding might be subtle? Maybe not that subtle after all.
Plomp!